Are you ready to live life to the full? Are you ready to rise up and live a life of honor? Are you ready to boldly step into a life of courage? This is the Manlihood ManCast.
Welcome to the Manlihood ManCast. Today's episode is going to be an interview with musician Austin Stirling. He's from Indiana. You can see his website at austinstirling.com. He's going to talk about life on the road, how that's impacted by coronavirus. He's going to talk about some of his music. We'll play a song from his new album. And we're going to kind of get to know him better and see what his take is on what makes a good man. Anyway, give it a listen. I'm looking forward to it. This is an exciting interview. So without further ado, here's my interview with Austin Stirling.
Hey man, I see you. I see your fire going out. I see your marriage barely holding on. I know you're broke, wore out, and at the end of your rope. I've been there, and it sucks. It sucks the spark right out of you, till all you have left is a pile of wet wood. It feels like it's never gonna burn. I can't fix your problems. I can't make her love you again. I can't lose 50 pounds for you or fill your bank account. But I can remind you of who you are. I can share some of my fire. I can help you make a plan to get your life back on track. So let's go. Let's do this. Let's reignite our lives. There's a lot at stake. No one wants their marriage to end in divorce. No one wants to wallow in despair or to the dark places that follow. So let's do it. Let's reignite our lives. Let's reignite our passion, our marriage, our health, our careers, our dreams, our mindsets. Get reignite today.
Austin, you are one of my favorite musicians, to be honest with you. I know you're like, oh yeah, talking to my biggest fan. But yeah, I love your music, and I know for me personally, it always speaks to me, and it motivates me, and I love listening to it. This new album is phenomenal, and I thought maybe we could kind of talk about it a little bit, about where it comes from, the story behind it, and then maybe talk about your career as a musician and, as a man making music and what that looks like for you. But why don't we start out? Tell me about this new album.
What do you want to know about it?
It's called
With the Wolves.
With the Wolves, that's right.
Yeah.
And I know that it's got, it starts out with this intro that you can hear a lot of different sounds kind of coming together. It's a soundscape, and one of the primary sounds in that is wind chimes.
Yeah.
And I know that that's kind of the story, a little bit of the story behind that album, because you had a lot of things happening in your life, right? Kind of leading up to this.
Yeah. It's, so the wind chimes were, and there's a commentary, I'm pretty sure it's on YouTube it's on YouTube, and then I'm pretty sure it's on Spotify and iTunes and all that kind of stuff. But long story short, a couple years of some just really hard stuff happening, and that all was kind of happening in the midst of me recording these songs. Another album, so Spring Summer, kind of happened in the middle of all that madness. The albums I work on tend to kind of overlap a lot. So right now I'm essentially working on like 3 separate albums right now, and I've got the next one that's coming out, but I'm still kind of working on 2 others in the midst of that. But it took about 3 years to really start putting the songs together for With the Wolves, and in that time, we had a lot of crazy things happen, just kind of abnormal. Some people call it just bad luck or whatever you want to call it. But one of the biggest things was my dad passed away, and that was in June 2017. That was literally at the very beginning of kind of like putting all this together. So processing and dealing and growing through that kind of really shaped the songs in a way. And fast forward, our house burnt down on Christmas Eve, 2018, so right before 19. And we had a couple other crazy things happened in the midst of all that as well. But I got wind chimes from my dad's passing. I don't know who got them for us or where they came from, but I lost our wind chimes in that fire, and then we lost our family farm where we lived, and we had 3 separate family members living out there, and it was just kind of a place where the whole family would kind of congregate, get together for holidays, and everybody else would come to the family farm. So we ended up selling the family farm. In the process of that, another set of wind chimes from a family member got left behind, and they didn't want them, so I was like, I'll take them. So we moved to this new house after a lot of floating around after the fire, trying to figure out what we're going to do in our next step. And it was really hard. It was like 9 months of kind of living on friends' couches, my wife and I, and our dog, and everything we had, which wasn't a lot. And we kind of bounced around for about 9 months because we were trying to rebuild our house. There was a weird snafu with like insurance to where we didn't get any insurance money for the fire. So not only did we have this fire and literally lost everything. My wife and I laughed the next morning because all we had was what we ran outside of the house with, really. I was able to grab a couple guitars and my computer, but that was it. And we woke up the next morning laughing, and I was like, we don't even own underwear, because like I was just wearing like sweatpants and a sweatshirt, and I was like, we don't own underwear or socks right now, and it was so surreal, but exciting and cool, because we were just like, this is like a new journey, and so fast forward, we're in this new little house. It's a rental house of my mom's, and it just opened up about the time when we were like, really, really needing a place, figured out we couldn't rebuild. So we moved in here. That's where we're still at. That's where I'm at right now. And I hung the wind chimes on the front porch. And as I'm recording and finishing up a lot of final details on the album, these wind chimes were like in the background. And I would go back at night and I listened to my recordings, and I could hear the wind chimes, and I'm like, oh no. And after a couple of days of trying to figure out, like, what am I going to do? Because it was in a lot of stuff. I was like, I'm just going to leave it, because it's like my dad's a part of the album, So yeah, that's that whole story on the wind chimes.
I definitely love that story too, because it's just kind of the way it works, It's kind of haunting, but at the same time, there's a joy to it and a way to kind of help process that. That's that grief of all of that. So, dude, I kind of we're Facebook friends, obviously, and I've been kind of following your story as you've been going through it and thinking, how hard would that be to go through that? And then when I heard the album, I kind of I'm also a musician. I'm not Austin Stirling quality, but I know. But I know for me, to be able to express myself in writing or in music really helps me go through that hard time, to be able to take that and turn that into something. And I think a lot of times, men in particular, because that's, is listening to our podcast, men in particular don't know how to process emotions. Right. So would you say, your music definitely helps you through that kind of stuff?
For many, many years of my life and growing up, I was like extremely angry and wanting to fight people at every corner. I thought I was a good communicator, and I thought I was processing things really well. It wasn't really until I got deep into playing music that I realized that like all this pent up anger and stuff I had was like this voice inside of me that I wasn't able to like show. It was just being stifled, by the people around me and my family. They didn't mean to, they just didn't know any better. I operate differently than probably anybody else in my family, and I kind of process differently. But so it's not, I don't have any grudge against them for that necessarily, but like it just was all of these years of not really feeling like I had a voice and I was able to be myself. And it caused a lot of anger. And once I got deep into music, I saw that very clearly. And now that I have like a way to express myself that way, the less anger I have as time goes on, you know. So, I mean, in the family in the house I grew up, like, it wasn't, they were very, like, aggressive in a way of, like, you know, my mom, she's tough. Like, she's like, you know, if you didn't jump when she told you to do something, you know, there was hell to pay. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And she made sure you listened. And she was hardcore. She's like a drill sergeant when we were younger, you know, in a good way. And my dad was the same. You know, if you got out of line or you didn't listen to what something he told you, you know, they were very old school in that mentality. And I appreciate it because I needed that. If they weren't like that, I probably would be a wreck right now, you know.
Yeah, that discipline carries over.
Yeah. So, sorry, I'm kind of talking circles, but yeah.
No, that's good.
Basically, I mean, the music really helps me kind of process more than anything, probably my inner voice, and like lets me get out this artistic part of me that for years what I wasn't able to do, you know. And I think early on, that's where like my getting all my tattoos and stuff, like that's where that came into play, because it was like it was a way artistically I could express myself outwardly, and I didn't really have any other avenues to do that. So I made a lot of friends within tattoo shops and things like that, and so just getting tattoos became a way of that I could really like dig deep and express myself, and it was really my only thing I could really figure out to do at the time. So, yeah.
I know that you do a lot of gigging as a musician. You play out a lot. You know, I see when you go on tour, you know, you'll go and travel quite a distance from your home there in Indiana. And now, obviously, some of that kind of stuff is taking a hit right now in the middle of this. Everybody's shut down and stuck in their house or whatever. What's that look like for you? How's that affecting you right now?
So my wife and I were talking, because I took this whole last winter off. Like, we moved into this house and the smoke had finally cleared after like 3 years of just chaos. And we moved into this house, and I was like, okay, this winter, I was like, you know, to my wife, I'm like, you and I are doing nothing. Like, we're going to lay low and spend time together and be together. And we're going to we need a sabbatical. You know what I mean? Like, so I took the time and I wrote and recorded, and, you know, she worked and tried to cut her hours down as much as possible. This whole winter, I haven't really played at all. I've played maybe a couple shows, and by the end of the winter, she's like, okay, we need to not do that again. She's like, you don't do well when you're not playing live, you know?
Right.
And I was like, I agree. Like, I miss getting in the car, you know, jumping in the van, loading all the gear up and just driving down the road, you know? And, so I'm trying to readjust my priorities and figure out a new game plan, because this whole summer is just shot. Like, I'm trying to talk to places, and maybe August, you know, I'm able to start booking some shows.
Yeah, that's tough, because every state is different, and then every place is different. They're like, we don't know what we can do. We don't know what, you know, nobody gives any clear answers on what they're allowed to do. So that kind of affects it too. And
I had some really big, cool, exciting things I was going to be playing this year that I'd never really gotten to do before.
Wind chimes?
So,
I'm going to play the wind chimes on stage?
Yeah, I was going to play the wind chimes, you know, different outfits on stage, and I was really excited. But yeah, all that's gone, you know, like, it's not going to happen, and maybe it'll happen next year or something. But
Yeah.
it sucks. But I mean,
You've already been through the hard stuff. This is nothing, right?
Yeah. I mean, and granted, like, every situation affects people differently. My wife was really struggling because she is like, she's not a workaholic in the negative sense. She's a workaholic in like, the girl's got more drive and work ethic than anybody I've seen. And she just loves it. Like, she loves what she does. She's a hairstylist and she owns 2 salons, and she just loves what she does. So her not being able to do that, was really bummed her out, but, throughout the quarantine, we just decided to be present, and look at this as like a paid vacation in a way.
Sure.
Even though we're not making money, the government is all cool enough to give us this money, and, I mean, I've got my opinions of the government, so does everybody else, but like, not to get political, but it's really cool that they're giving people, stimulus checks, and you have, you're able to get some finances. Granted, they're not what we would have been making, if I was out on the road and she was able to work as well, but it's still good. We're okay. We're breathing. We're healthy,
Exactly.
I've got a 13-year-old son, and I was talking to him, and he didn't get to have his birthday party in the midst of all this. And I had to kind of take him aside and say, you got to think, if somebody in our family got sick and they passed away, like, how important would your birthday party be then? Your birthday party wouldn't even be in your mind. So you got to think of what we still have, and what other people are going through. And it's much worse than us just being bored for a few weeks.
Definitely. When I think about touring back in the day when you used to be able to go tour and go play, I think a lot of times when we think of a touring musician, we imagine this rolling tour bus full of debauchery.
Yeah.
Which doesn't seem like you at all. We've met online, and you're from Indy, and come to find out you were coming through the area, so I was actually able to go see you play, which was awesome. I guess I was just impressed with, like, this is a job to you. Like, like I said, there's this image, maybe it's Hollywood that creates it, of musicians just kind of going out and doing whatever they want when they're on the road. What does it look like for you? Like, what is that portion of your job like?
Well, I think it's, I don't think it's necessarily, Hollywood definitely adds to it, but I mean, it is a real thing. I mean, about every show we go to, I'm offered some kind of drug or, and before my wife was around, I'm not saying that, everybody wants to sleep with you and everybody wants to, like do coke with you or something like that. I'm just saying, like, if you, as a musician out there playing, like, it's definitely there at your fingertips at any moment. But I don't know. In the circles I've ran in most of my life, like, some of my really good friends in high school were into some pretty heavy drugs for high schoolers, like coke and heroin and stuff like that. And I've been around that stuff since probably junior high, but for some reason, I've just never been interested. Like, legit, like, it's just never been anything I've been interested in. I've never been curious about it. I guess that's one thing with my family being as, like, hardcore as they are, like, discipline and the aggressive nature. I think I kind of learned from that was, like, a very, like, staunch, like, this is who I am, this is how I function. And I never felt the need to, like, apologize or feel embarrassed or for any of the ways I operated, So when we're on tour, I think a lot of people just assume that I used to be an alcoholic, even though I've literally never taken a sip of alcohol, and I've never even smoked a cigarette. But, so some people think maybe I used to have a problem with addiction. A lot of people just leave me alone about it, really. I mean, people will ask and offer something, but as soon as I'm like, no, I'm good, they're pretty respectful and they just leave me alone about it, and I don't care. I don't care what people are going to go do. I don't necessarily want to be there in the same room with things going on. And it's not because I don't like them or anything like that. I try to, as I'm growing older, I'm becoming more sensitive to, like, not to sound new agey about things, but like the energy that's around me. And when I feel like a negative heaviness, like I don't want it,
Yeah.
And what a lot of people do to their bodies, what it's doing to them internally and mentally, it's heavy to me, it weighs on me, and I don't really like being present for that.
Getting back to your new album, which is With the Wolves, which people can get that, by the way, on Spotify, iTunes, or probably directly from you, too, from your website?
No, I don't have it up because
that's okay.
Really, everybody just uses streaming platforms.
Yeah.
So it's on really any streaming platform.
Cool. So they can pull it up and listen and check it out and share it with their friends. There are a lot of really good tracks. Now, when you sent me the album to preview, you told me it's actually designed to be listened to in one setting, right? All the way through.
Yeah. I was kind of trying to, like, combat that, the modern, everybody, picking one song after, which is going to happen regardless.
Yeah,
but
sure.
I really wanted to, like, push people to, like, sit down and, like, go through, like, an experience,
It's definitely cool when you do that because the songs kind of flow together and it tells a story, I guess. So I really like it. One of the songs, no, we're gonna break your rule now because we'll play one of them for now for our listeners. Here we go. This is "Strength of My Hands" by Austin Stirling. That's Strength of My Hands by Austin Stirling, which, again, you can check out on any streaming platform. Make sure you listen. I imagine you get a little bit of royalties from people listening into that, right, Austin? Is that how that works? Just a penny or two here and there?
Little is an exaggeration, I think. My intent was actually for this album to give it away completely for free. I don't know where a snafu happened or something in the process of me releasing it through all the streaming services and all that, but it looks like it's still charging for it. Which if people are paying for streaming, Spotify or Apple Music or whatever, they obviously don't have to pay for it. They're paying for the streaming service. Sure. So I was actually trying to give it away for free. So that's one of the things I've been trying to figure out why that didn't happen. But yeah, royalties are
what they are.
Thing of the past. Yeah.
Yeah. Someday that'll all turn around, but that's all good though. I mentioned this in the intro before you came on. I talked about the fact that some of your music, some of your older music, is actually part of our theme song leading into the Manlihood ManCast and has been. And I love that kind of dark Gothic Southern sound that your music is. Is there music that you would say that you listen to that maybe inspires you or informs you?
Not really, man. So I try really hard not to be influenced by anything I listen to. I mean, of course you're gonna hear things you like, and I try not to like imitate anything, and I try really hard not to like. For one, I want to sound as original as possible. Like I want my style and sound, and whether it's lyrical or audible or whatever, like I really want it to be as unique and different as possible. So I think I was just so when I was playing, I had like a full band, and when it was like the Hangdog Hearts, and that was intended to be like a full band. I never wanted to be solo. I never even wanted to be like the lead singer, but nobody else would get up on the mic when we were jamming. So I was like, okay, I guess I'll do it.
I guess that's me.
Yeah. And I still don't. I never considered myself like a singer or anything or a lead front man or anything like that. But the band kept falling apart, and I kept trying to keep it together, and it kept falling apart. I kept trying to find members, and people would come and go. And I'm like, if I want this to keep going, like I have to keep going. So it led into me playing by myself, and I had a couple shows where it was just me, and the drummer and the upright player didn't show up, and I was carrying the drummer's drum set because it was my drum set he was using, so I was loading it and taking it to the gigs. Well, I had a kick drum there, and I'm like, well, I'll try this just to make it a little more exciting, so I'm not just sitting there strumming by myself, And after doing that a handful of times, like it just clicked. And once I started writing songs like that, like it just, everything opened up. And I finally felt like I was playing like the way that like I play music, without thinking about it, without overcomplicating it. So to answer your question, I don't really look at people that inspire me really like musically.
Mm-hmm. You're trying to make something that's your own and that's different regardless.
Yeah, and I don't mean to sound pretentious when I say that in the way of like, nobody inspires me. I don't look to, anything like that. Like, there's things I hear, and I have over time, like I've heard something that another musician has done, like, whether it be like lyrics from like Springsteen or something that Bryan Adams has done, or like something Tom Waits has done, and I've tried to like kind of capture that they've done, and it falls short every time, and it's probably some of the worst stuff I've ever recorded, so I just delete it because I'm just like, this is horrible, and it's not genuine, it's not me.
Yeah, so you can't copy somebody else's style. You can't try to even, like, if it's you, then it works, is what you're saying. Like it's
right.
It's got to be you. It's got to be authentic.
Yeah. and I think there's different musicians. There's people that can hear stuff like that and they can copy it and make it their own really well. I'm just not that kind of musician. I haven't done that well, in my opinion, when I've tried to do that. So really, like, I just sit down and record a song and I have an idea of what I want it to sound like. And then I just kind of like work through it as I'm recording. You know, I try different instruments to it and see what sticks. And some of these songs I record 3, 4, 5 times before I get an actual take with instruments and everything that I like. You know, I just keep working the song until I feel like it's, you know, what as good as it can be.
So most of the instruments then on your album most of them are you playing the banjo and the percussion and vocals and all of that's mostly you.
Right. Yeah. Violin players. So the last 3 albums, especially, Salway, Spring Summer, and With the Wolves, the violin players or the fiddle players are whoever's playing those instruments is somebody else. But everything else is just me.
When I saw you play live in New York, you had your wife with you playing keys and another lady on violin. Sometimes when you tour, does your wife come along with you?
Yeah, she's always, Lily's always on the road, and she, that's just something when we got married, we decided we were going to commit to, is that I really don't want to go on the road and be away from her, for one. I don't really like that. Like, if this is going to be a lifelong career, I don't want to get in the habit of me coming in and out of town and leaving. It's just unhealthy, I think, for a marriage, and I've seen a lot of marriages of friends and other people suffer from that, and she's too good, man. I don't want to mess it up. So
yeah, she's definitely out of your league, buddy.
Trust me, man. I know. That's when I got to know her. We were on tour. Her dad actually is a pretty killer musician himself, and he was coming and playing some shows with us, and that's how I kind of got reacquainted with her. And so her and I were texting this whole really long tour. We were on for like 5 weeks or something, and then we were coming home for 6 days, and then I left for Europe for like 6 weeks. So for 5 weeks, we were out on the West Coast and back, and her and I were just texting and nonstop. Then we were home for like 6 days, so I got to spend 6 days with her. And then we left for Europe for 6 weeks, and so between that 5 weeks and those 6 weeks, like, we got to know each other really well. We were just nonstop communication, and by the time I got back home, I was like, I don't mean to freak you out, but would you be interested in sitting down with my pastor and doing like premarital counseling? And she was like, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. It was just like that. It was like, okay, cool. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So quick question about kind of being on the road, gigging kind of thing. What's the worst performance, the worst gig you ever had? There's always one that sticks in your head, you know? Is there one for you?
Man, dude, these are fun stories to tell when we're on tour and stuff, and we're other musicians, you know, whoever's with us, and we're sharing these stories. One that sticks out. I mean, I've had a lot of bad ones. One, this guy booked us at a bar. I'm not going to name the state or anything because people might know who the guy is when I describe it. I show up to the venue, and it had already been booked. Not only was there a band setting up, there was another band who was supposed to play that night as well as me supposed to play. So it was like triple booked. So there's a band setting up and another band like, hey, we're supposed to play. And then I'm like, I'm supposed to play too, you know? So the guy who booked the show said basically, my parents have a restaurant in town and you can go play it, you know, and we'll try to get you some money. So I go to this restaurant, and it was like actually an old diner. and there was no room because you know how those old diners are set up, and it was packed, but not in like a good way. Like, this is great exposure. Packed in like a loud, everybody's college kids are extremely drunk and nobody's paying attention to anybody. So I had to set up, basically there was like the bar area and it kind of curved around at the end. And then there was like bathrooms on this end. Well, I was at the very end inside the counter area with a PA speaker right here sitting on the counter. My kick drums behind the counter, and I'm standing with my banjo trying to play songs. I literally have like servers and people passing orders behind my head, and like I'm having to like duck out of the way because the kitchen window is right behind me. And it was so greasy that like by the end of the night, I just had like grease all up and down my back and on the back of my head, and even the back of my banjo. Like I wiped it off, and there was like grease on the back of my banjo. And I got $9. So
that sounds awesome. Oh,
played for 3 hours.
Yeah,
and I got $9. So that was humbling. Yeah.
Yeah, and then your background music, so it's like, you know, that's
I don't even know if I was that. I think everybody was so annoyed and didn't want me there that they were just like,
send him home.
Yeah.
I said I wanted him over easy.
Yeah.
they can't hear. They're just yelling because
yeah.
they can't hear over you.
Yeah. Yeah. It was not fun. So
that's awesome.
We were actually playing. I was playing with a buddy. This wasn't a horrible gig. It was just kind of it was a funny moment. My buddy James Honeycutt and I were on tour, and we're out playing a show. I think we were in California, and he got really sick. So I'm having to like play double shift and like fill the night. He like lost his voice and stuff. And there's the people in the front row, and they're like really into it. And I was like, oh, this is cool. You know, it's been a couple days. We played a show that the people were digging it, you know. And this girl leads forward into probably like my fifth or sixth song. And she was like, do you know any James Honeycutt songs? James, my buddy, was sitting right there at another table watching me, and he was like mouthing to me. He's like, I'm so sorry. And I was just like, no, I don't know any James Honeycutt songs. That sucked. Old buddy of mine that played drums, Sean, he played drums with me when I was doing like the Hang Dog Hearts thing. This much older lady was super hammered, kept trying to pull him into the bathroom in between our sets. And if you knew Sean, it was just fun to sit and watch because he was so uncomfortable, and he almost got raped by this, 78-year-old lady, which was just highly entertaining. So I might have even taken like extra breaks just to give them a chance to, converse.
You like change the set and start working the love songs into
Yeah. So
some Air Supply covers,
Yeah. Just something real sexy.
Since we kind of asked you some of your worst experiences, maybe what's one of your best or most favorite moments from playing music on the road?
So I went to school in Terre Haute. I went to ISU. Didn't necessarily finish, but that's not what we're talking about right now.
Me either, man. It's all good.
Yes, I went to college in Terre Haute, and there's a bar called the Verve in Terre Haute, Indiana. And every year, Connie, the owner, has this huge fest called Blues Fest or Blues at the Crossroads, and thousands of people, man, like 5,000-6,000 people throughout the day, and which for Terre Haute's not a huge city, but it's a big event for that area. And I remember when I first was kind of like looking at the college and driving through Terre Haute, I noticed the marquee sign for the Verve, and I was like, man, that's a cool looking. I bet that bar is awesome. That's the first place I'm going to go to when I'm hanging out down here and see bands and all that kind of stuff. And when I was in school, I tried to kind of start a band. It just never worked when I tried to. But I'm jamming with some guys that lived in the same building with me, and we're like, yeah, we're going to get a set list together. We're going to play at the Verve. And that was like we're shooting high, you know what I mean? And I played at the Verve a bunch of years ago, and Connie was kind enough that she was like, would you come and would you play Blues Fest? Would you headline it? Actually going to the festival, driving to play, I didn't realize I was headlining. And as I pull in, we're driving on the highway, we're seeing billboard signs on the side with like my name on it and stuff like that. And I'm like, why is my name on the billboard? And I didn't realize we were headlining, the festival and not closing out the night. So we get there, and it's just this huge stage and massive crowd. At that point, the biggest crowd I've ever played for. And, we're just playing as a two-piece, and we played, and it was fun. It was a great show. People were enjoying it, and they were having a good time. And so as I'm playing the whole time, I could see off to my left that like Verve marquee sign, and I just kind of like took a second and was like thankful for that experience, like never would have thought I would get to be doing what I do. I never thought I'd get to be a musician, it was always like a unspoken dream of mine, so much so that I never talked about it because I never thought it would be something like possible for me to do. So I didn't even want to like talk about it. Cause I wanted it that bad, so it's really, that was a cool experience.
That is awesome.
Yeah. And other musicians know this, but like you play, 50 horrible shows, and then show number 51, and you're just getting drained the whole time. And then show 51 is like awesome, and people really appreciate it, and they have fun, and you're able to do what you do really well. And it re-energizes you for the next 50 like shitty shows.
Yeah.
So you're just, you're set up, and you're like, okay, I'm re-energized. Let's do it again,
Yeah. Well, and that sometimes I think one of the things I had to realize too is like, yeah, I want to make music that makes other people happy, but at the same time I make it because it makes me happy, and hopefully other people get it,
Right.
I'm sure that's probably, the case with, I mean, you're not going to put something out that sucks, but I
might, I don't know. I'm sure a lot of people think, some things suck, and
yeah, my 15-year-old daughter's really not into you, just so you know. She's like, oh, Dad, we have to listen to this.
Everybody has got their different tastes.
Yeah.
And,
now my 20-year-old daughter is into it though. She's like, this is awesome.
Oh,
So.
cool. There you go.
Yeah.
That makes me feel better. No, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, dude. Listen, I've really enjoyed having you on the show and chatting with you about life, about music, and what's one piece of advice, one piece of manly advice that you'd give the guys in our audience that for maybe something you've learned in your life that as a man that that really you think every man needs to know?
Man, I don't know. I think as a man, I think everybody in general, men and women, but especially men, I think finding mentors, building a multitude of wise counsel. So I have 3 men that I meet with on a regular basis. From my standpoint, they're believers. We have the same spiritual beliefs, and it's just older men who have lived more life, who I have sought out, and they're wiser than me in many, many ways. I didn't realize I needed this until my dad passed away, because he was always my wise counsel. He was always my mentor. He was the guy I went to, and when I didn't know what to do, when I needed, I just needed direction, you know. I'm still young in many ways. I don't know the wisest thing to do at every turn. So when he passed away and I was reaching those moments where I needed somebody wiser than me to talk to, so I turned to my pastor, who's one of them, and a couple other guys. It has done wonders for me. I mean, but the thing is, like, you have to be consistent about it. It's not like you seek out this relationship with a mentor and you do it for a month or two and go, no, like it's nonstop. So kind of to piggyback on that, I think continual self-work like is something that I strive to always put like in the forefront of everything I do. Like my daily everything is like I continually need to work on myself, my spiritual and my emotional health. So I think those two, yeah, probably are the biggest that jump out in my head.
I think that's some excellent advice, man. I really appreciate it, and I know that our guys will get a lot out of that too. So again, Austin Stirling, you can check out his website, austinstirling.com. Look him up on YouTube, follow him on social media, and I'd encourage you to, find a song you like and share it so that you can share it with your friends, because I think he makes great music, and I think a lot of people would really appreciate it, right? So let's get it out there.
Thanks, man.
Awesome. Thanks for being on the show, buddy. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
If you want to be a better man, check out our website, manlihood.com, for blogs, videos, and more from our Manlihood team. Men, you can also join our private Facebook group, Manlihood ManCast, where you can meet up with a band of brothers who will challenge you and help you on your journey of manhood. Be sure to check out all our resources at manlihood.com/store. This episode is produced by Thatcher Media for manlihood.com. Our manly theme music is from Austin Stirling and also from Mark Cruz. Sure to subscribe and leave a review on iTunes, YouTube, or whatever you're listening to. Tune in again for more of the Manlihood ManCast.